25 interesting facts about Portugal that you probably didn't know. Portugal is the oldest country in Europe. Due to its excellent trading location, the Phoenicians settled there in 1200 BC. It's about 400 years older than Rome. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to reach Japan way back in the 16th century, and they left their linguistic mark on them. Words such as pan from the Portuguese pão, meaning bread, and sabato from the Portuguese sabado, meaning Saturday. Portugal is home to the oldest bookstore in the world. Book lovers will delight in a trip to Bertrand Bookstore, located in Lisbon's Chiado district. The bookstore itself was established in 1732, and its exterior facade is a beautiful array of mosaic tiles, worth admiring in their own right. Portugal holds the record for the longest and the shortest reigning monarchs. Henrique of Portugal was king for over 73 years, while Louis Philippe, on the other hand, was only king for 20 minutes. Portugal is investing heavily in renewable energy. In March of 2018, Portugal generated 100% of its energy through renewable resources such as hydro, wind, and solar power. In 2020, Portugal ranked as the 4th green country in the European Union across 6 categories. Portugal was also among the first countries to set a 2050 carbon neutral goal. The official Guinness World Record wave was surfed in Portugal. The record is held by a Brazilian named Rodrigo Caxa, and the wave was 25 meters high at Praia do Norte Nazar in 2017. Portugal's 800-kilometer Atlantic coastline and temperate weather make it a hotspot for surfers all year round. The world has Portugal to thank for piri sauce, the chili sauce that's liberally poured over the nation's classic churrasco chicken. The main ingredient in piri comes from South America. When the Portuguese discovered it there, they moved it to Africa and mixed it with garlic and lemon to create the legendary sauce. Port wine is Portugal's #1 export and their national drink. Produced exclusively in Portugal's UNESCO-listed Douro Valley, port wine is a sweet, red fortified wine. The area is the 3rd oldest protected wine region in the world, and its produce became very popular with the English in the 18th century. Portugal is the westernmost point in Europe. While Portugal is set on the edge of the Iberian Peninsula in southwestern Europe, its archipelago of the Azores in the Atlantic Ocean officially holds the title of being the westmost point of Europe. Portugal is home to the world's largest cork forest and produces over 70% of its cork exports. You can go to a street market and shop for cork coasters, cork bags, a bunch of stuff made out of cork. Portugal used to be huge. In fact, it owned half of the New World. When the Treaty of Tordesillas was signed in 1494, Portugal was given the eastern half of the New World, including Brazil, parts of Asia, and parts of Africa. Portugal is home to 17 UNESCO World Heritage sites. Now these of course play a big role in tourism, and Portugal is one of the top 20 visited countries in the world. Portugal is one of the most peaceful countries in the world. In 2021, they came in 4th place, with the only countries beating them being Iceland, New Zealand, and Denmark. Portugal is a very safe place to visit with very little violence, very low chance you're going to get robbed. As you'd imagine, with Portugal having had so much land in the past, it is one of the top spoken languages in the world today, with over 250 million Portuguese speakers. Portuguese is the official language in 9 countries. So actually, it shouldn't be surprising to you that only 5% of the Portuguese speakers in the world are actually living in Portugal. One of the deadliest earthquakes in history hit Lisbon in the 18th century. It hit November 1st, 1755, and it almost wiped out the entire city. Seismologists, earthquake scientists, estimate that the earthquake was a 7.7 magnitude. The earthquake also generated a 6-meter high, or 18 feet, tsunami that many people drowned in. The death toll for this catastrophic event is estimated to be somewhere between 12,000 and 60,000 people. Not many people know this next fact outside of Portugal, so you better appreciate it by giving me a like. For over 40 years, the Portuguese lived under a dictatorship, under the rule of Antonio Salazar. He sounds like a bad guy in Pirates of the Caribbean. On the 25th of April, 1974, the Carnation Revolution happened, and a peaceful military coup overthrew the dictatorship. Now, this day is remembered and celebrated as it signifies the end of decades of tyranny under Salazar's police and the beginning of the end of Portuguese colonization. It is a day of freedom. The Portuguese Penal Code states that no prisoner's term may last more than 25 years. That means that no matter how many crimes you commit, you won't go to prison for over 25 years. Use that information wisely. Here's a crazy one. On July 1st, 2001, Portugal became the first country to legalize all drugs, including meth, heroin, and cocaine. This law made drugs for personal use legally allowed, but drug trafficking is still a criminal offense. The reason they changed this law was to fight the drug epidemic of the 90s and AIDS. But how did that turn out? Well, Portugal now has one of the lowest drug usage rates in the European Union. Seems like it worked out pretty good. Portugal is one of the best places to retire, according to International Living's Global Retirement Index and Forbes. They have a low cost of living, tax incentives, a beautiful country to explore, a great culture, great food. Retirees can make use of the NHR regime, healthcare is really good, and the all-around standard of living, really good. Who wouldn't want to go to Portugal? Remember that fact I told you earlier about the library and how they had the tiles that were super intricate and beautiful? Well, Portugal is known as the country of tiles. Since 2013, it has been illegal in Portugal to demolish tile facaded buildings, thus preserving the history and cultural heritage. These glazed blue ceramic tiles cover the streets and buildings. Now, these tiles were actually originally created with functionality in mind. They protect the houses from low temperatures. What do you think Portugal's oldest ally is? If you say Spain, you're wrong. It's actually England. Dating back centuries and centuries to the year 1386, England and Portugal signed the Treaty of Windsor. It is thought to be the oldest and longest running alliance between modern nations. The most famous dessert in Portugal is the custard tart. But it's not just any old custard tart. It's special. It is the famous pasteis de nata. And I'm almost certain I pronounced that incorrectly. Let me know how I did. These tarts were created by monks sometime before the 18th century. You can find this tart everywhere from Brazil to Japan, but it is said that Portugal is the best place to get them. The tallest mountain in Portugal is Mount Pico, but it's not even on the mainland. It's actually situated on the island of Pico, off to the coast in the Atlantic Ocean. It towers an impressive 7,713 feet, and it's an active volcano, although its last eruption was in 1720. Portugal has its own martial art. Forget about Eastern Asia with their kung fu, karate, and taekwondo. You don't need it. Portugal has you covered. It's called Jogo do Pau, which means game of the stick. Based on knightly medieval techniques, it originates in the mountains and was originally used by farmers for self-defense. It's still used to this day. All right, before we get to number 25, I want you all to subscribe. Portugal is the first country in the world that made fingerprints on one's identity card compulsory. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching through, learning about Portugal, and I hope you had a good time. I will see you in the next one.